Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today to enjoy some kindness. I'm Melissa McGarry. I'm the director of the foundation here at Mary Greeley, and I want to say welcome and thank you to everybody. We're able to bring Nicole to us this afternoon and then later this evening for an evening of bliss, our celebration of breast cancer awareness, because of the generosity of many of you in this room today. If you gave to our employee giving campaign this last year, it supported our Staff Excellence Fund, and that fund helps support programs like this. So thank you for your generosity over the last year. And as you probably know, you'll get that opportunity coming up in the not too distant future. But it's my pleasure to introduce Nicole Phillips as our presenter this afternoon. Nicole is a champion for using kindness to overcome all of life's difficulties, including her own battle with breast cancer. She spreads the message of the healing power of kindness as host of the weekly show, The Kindness Podcast. Through her weekly column, Kindness is Contagious, which runs in newspapers in North Dakota and Minnesota, and as a regular guest on Hallmark Channel's Home and Family Show. She's also the author of 2 books, Kindness is Contagious and Kindness is Courageous. I do believe we're actually going to be giving a couple of those away, so if you haven't gotten your ticket, make sure you get a ticket from the gals up at the top. Nicole is married to her childhood sweetheart and has 3 kids who continually need her Uber services. Please join me in welcoming Nicole.
Thank you. Hello, hello, hello. She left out the most important thing, which is that last February, I won a car on The Price is Right. You've heard of the show. Okay, good. Because, if I say that to anybody who's in college or younger, they're like, The Price is, huh? They don't get that show. So, yeah, that was fun. And we recently moved from Ohio to Aberdeen, South Dakota. And as part of my consolation prize as the wife who got to follow my husband's job, he allowed me to put in an application to be on House Hunters. So we're going to be on House Hunters in January. Yeah. I'm a sucker for attention. What can I say? I don't know. So as I was on the plane here, the woman who was sitting next to me said, "Oh, you're speaking about kindness in Iowa. Well, Iowa Nice, right? Has anyone heard of Iowa Nice? Yeah. Does anyone want to buy me a case of beer?" I love that story of Sweet Carson and the way that people in this state showed the rest of the United States that what kindness looks like, and that it doesn't have to support my team and my thing and my vision and my political view. It's just kindness. It just is. And it's just the way that we can walk in life. And I think that's so cool. So because, raise your hand if you are living in Iowa right now. Okay, many of you. Okay, great. So those of you who are Iowa nice, that's not who I want to talk to right now. I want you to take your Iowa nice brain and just kind of set it aside. Shh, tell it to be quiet. And who I want to talk to is your inner meanie. Does anyone have an inner meanie? Does anyone know what a meanie is? Like that inner bully, whatever. It's the cynical in you. It's the bad cop in you. It's just the judgmental part of you. Anyone have that? Okay, so for anyone who feels like no, let's just do a little test, okay? I fail this test every single time, I'll be honest with you. Okay, so let's say you are driving down a rural Iowa highway that is 2 lanes, one going this way and one going this way. And you want to say drive like 60. And let's say the person right in front of you wants to drive, say, 24. Do you just settle back and turn up the radio and just, oh, look at the beautiful fields. Oh, isn't that a pretty barn? Is that you? Or are you the person who slowly hits that accelerator until you're almost to that person's bumper, and then you weave so you can see if you can pass, and then you weave so you can see if you can pass, and then eventually you go speeding past the person and you take off. Raise your hand If you're totally fine, just relaxing, looking at the barns, driving. Raise your hand if that's you. So many of you. Okay. Raise your hand if you're the person that just, you can feel your blood just start to boil. Okay, we got some honesties right back there. Like, I love that. Second row there, with the blonde hair, she was like, yes, it's me. I love that. Thank you. Now, maybe that wasn't you. Maybe you're like, no, I'm fine in that situation. Let's talk about this. How many of you get home from work and you see, the dishwasher needs to be unloaded. The basket of laundry would really love to be separated and folded. And the dinner needs to be made before your 27 children head off to all of their various activities. So you come home, you walk in the door, you see what needs to be done, and you start moving. Your spouse, life partner, whoever it is, comes in and decides to plop down on the couch and just kind of take 5. So how many of you think to yourself, you know what? My spouse works really, really hard. And, they deserve some time just to sit down and relax and put their feet up a little bit. They'll get around to helping, I'm sure. Or do you stomp your feet all over the house, unloading the dishwasher with the pots and pans as fast as you can, as loud as you can, meanwhile huffing over the fact that there are socks go here and underwear go there and shirts go there, and then you start making dinner and you're huffing the whole time, just in case that person who's sitting on the couch happens to notice there are things that need to be done. Raise your hand if you take time to just get grateful and then say, honey, would you mind helping? Raise your hand if that's you. Okay. We got it way in the back. We got it sort of sometimes. Yeah. Okay, good. You come down, you do this. Because that one still gets me. Raise your hand if you're the person who stomps and huffs and just, fine, I'll just do it myself. Yeah, some of you. And some of you are choosing not to answer, which means your spouse is probably in the room right now, right? Okay, the third situation. I know this would never happen between any of you, but in other work environments, sometimes people get emails or memos or, TPS reports that say, I need you to do it this way now, when you've just spent all this time doing it this way like that. Or I need you to work this shift, or I need you to be here then, or I need you to take care of this responsibility, which really isn't your responsibility anyway. How many of you think to yourself, oh, you know what? I bet my boss has a lot going on in their life that I don't know anything about. Or a coworker, there's a lot going on in their life. And so I imagine that they didn't mean to send it in that tone, but, life got the better side of them. I'm just going to cut them some slack. Or, not that any of you would do this, but some people might go off to a coworker and say, can you believe what this person wants from me? Don't answer this one because I feel like I don't want you, I want everyone's jobs to be secure. So we're not going to answer that one. But think about those scenarios. One dealt with total strangers behind the wheel of a car. One dealt with your family at home. And the third dealt with your work family. Those are the people you go on vacation to get away from, right? What's the one common denominator in each one of those situations? You. Yeah, you. So that's what we're here to talk about today, because kindness really isn't about other people. Kindness is about you and the life you transform when you decide to look through the lens of kindness is your own. It's not someone else's. It took me a long time to learn that. I grew up in a little town called Reedsburg, Wisconsin. The population in 1985 was 5,038. I remember that because we drove on this country road to get out to our house every time we came in and out of the city. So I had a pretty ideal childhood with a mom and a dad, an older brother, an older sister. and two parents who seemed to love each other. We lived on a little farmette. We had horses and dogs and cats and rabbits and all kinds of critters. When I was in third grade, my mom went back to work, and she got a really well-paying job at a men's prison about 45 minutes away from our house. Well, my mom fell in love with a prison inmate. And so when I was about 10 years old, I was the flower girl in my mom's prison chapel wedding. Every other Saturday, when my mom had custody of me, we would go to the prison, and she would give me a roll of quarters, and I would get to use the vending machines and all this. And so, as an adult woman, I'm 44 now. As an adult woman, I can look back and I can think, okay, I'm sorry, did you just say your mom took her 10-year-old daughter to the prison? Did that? And so I can look through that kind of judgmental lens and say, yeah, something's not adding up right there. But as a 10-year-old child, I thought it was the coolest thing ever because I got to do something none of the other kids in my class got to do. I remember going into that prison and all the security that was there. And security now is kind of like, well, yeah, we have security. It's everywhere. Security back then was like a doorman, right? And so we would go into the prison and they would use this wand and they would wand us all up and down to make sure we weren't, smuggling any razor blades in or something. And then we would go through this archway and you'd walk through, and if there was any metal on your body, it would bing. I remember my mom always had to make sure she didn't wear an underwire bra because it was very embarrassing when she went through those machines. They were very sensitive to that. The last type of security measure we went through was a stamp on our hand. And they would stamp your hand, and then magically, like there was nothing there, invisible. Now, I had never been to a Chuck E. Cheese or any other, children's playground area at the time, so I didn't realize how normal it was, but they stamp your hand, there's nothing there, and then when you go to leave, you put your hand under a black light, and the most beautiful purple iridescent symbol shows up on your hand. I was always afraid to wash my hand in the prison because I was afraid I would wash off that purple, the invisible marker, and they wouldn't let me out. They always let me out. My mom's husband would come out and visit with us for the day, and so that's why my mom would give me the roll of quarters, because at age 10, boredom set in after about 7 minutes. And so I would take my roll of quarters because next to the visitation room was this lunch area, and it was filled with vending machines. Now, you probably have a cafeteria around here somewhere with some vending machines in it, right? I guarantee you my vending machines were better. You could buy something frozen, you could buy something fresh, you could buy candy, you could buy chips, you could buy fruit, you could buy anything you wanted. My favorite were the microwavable meals, because then once I bought that, then I could go over to the microwave, which in 1985 was cutting edge technology, and I could use it all by myself. I really loved those prison Saturdays with my mom. It wasn't until I was in 8th grade and my mom's husband was getting out of prison that I realized perhaps I had something to be ashamed of. The fact that I got to do what everyone else didn't get to do lost its novelty and made me just feel strange and different and a bit of an outcast. When I was in 8th grade, my dad decided it was time for us to move away from Reedsburg, mainly because he was trying to move me away from my mom's husband. He wanted to limit access. So we moved 2.5 hours away, and that was really kind of the end of my relationship with my mom for a long time, because that shame I started to feel really turned into this heavy bitterness. And even though she would reach out and try to call or try to visit, I was pretty adamant that it was never a good time. And even when she talked to me as an adult, I couldn't speak to her without venom coming out. See, I carried a lot of those thoughts from my childhood into my adulthood. And so here we were 8 years ago, 8 years, 2011. And I have everything I could have ever wanted. I'm married to my childhood sweetheart. We have 3 beautiful, healthy kids. We live in a nice house. And I was miserable. I was on the edge of what anyone would call an alcoholic. I was a drinker and a smoker and an overeater. I was angry at my husband all the time. And life felt passionless and pointless. And that's with the antidepressants I was taking. So I was in that frame of mind when I went with my 3 kids to the swimming pool in Fargo, North Dakota. We were living in Fargo at the time, and has anyone ever been to just anywhere in North Dakota? Okay, then if you've been there, you know they get one hot day of the year. And this was the day. We got our one hot day, so of course everybody in town goes to the pool. It is packed. I look like a pack mule because I'm carrying all of my kids' stuff. My daughter was 7, my son was 5, and my littlest was 1.5, and I am schlepping all of this stuff in here. And my daughter finds the one open lounge chair next to a girl with long blonde hair in a shiny gold bikini. No big deal, except that I'm wearing my mom suit, which starts here and goes all the way down to the floor. So I sit down next to this girl who clearly is very different from me. We would never have anything in common. And my 1.5-year-old is sitting at my feet, and she's babysitting a 1.5-year-old next to her feet. And the 2 kids start sharing Cheerios. And it was pretty adorable. So I start paying attention to what's happening here. And, you know, they're picking them up and handing them over and, you know, licking them and giving them. And it was a thing. Really cute. And I noticed that gold bikini girl starts doing sign language with the little girl she's there watching. And I think, oh my goodness, this is the world's best babysitter. If I can get her to watch my kids, then I can go do something that will make me happy. So I'm trying to figure out how to get her number without looking like a complete stalker. And that's when my 1.5-year-old sees a woman across the pool. She has flippy brown hair. She's wearing a mom suit. And he points and he yells, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." Now he's not saying, "Hey, mommy, look." He's saying, "That's my mommy." And so I'm like, no. I'm your mommy. I'm your mommy. I'm all worried about social services at this point. I'm your mommy. Gold bikini girl starts to laugh. And she said, "That happened to us just the other day. Little Gigi was looking out of our apartment window and she saw a woman with blonde hair getting into a car across the street. And she started yelling, 'Mommy, mommy, mommy.'" Well, my heart sunk because this was not the world's best babysitter. This was the mom. And she was maybe 17 years old. She had a far smaller support system and far fewer resources than I had. And yet she was actually enjoying what she was doing. She was present in the moment. She was happy to spend this warm summer day with her daughter. So we started to talk. And we had a great conversation about what it's like to be a single mom. And I learned a lot from her that day. And we walked out of the parking lot together. And I got into my brand new minivan. And she got into a compact car that had seen lots of previous owners. And something in my heart told me to stop and give her some money. And I hadn't heard that voice before. I wasn't familiar with "go give her money." You know, like that wasn't part of my realm. So I stopped and I grabbed everything I had in my wallet, 3 $20 bills. And I walked over to her while she was buckling up little Gigi. And I said, "Excuse me, my best friend died of cancer when we were 30. And, you know, I love to remember her, and I love it when things remind me of the way she looked at people. Because she looked at people, especially women, as being here to lift each other up, not to compete, not to judge. And so you just reminded me of her today, and I'm so thankful. I know that you're going to be a big catalyst for change in this community, and I want you to have this. And so I basically verbally vomited all over her and threw $60 at her. And then I was like, okay, now what do I do? Well, she started to cry. She gave me a big hug. And she just said, thank you. Thank you. I gave her enough money to put gas in her tank a few times and go to McDonald's with her daughter. I got back into my minivan with a high unlike anything I had ever experienced from any bad decision I had made before. I was on fire. I felt like I owned the world. It was this awesome, powerful feeling. And it was kindness. And so I went home and I wrote it down because I thought if everyone knew what this felt like, if I could share this with people, then they would all want to try it and kindness would be contagious. Everyone would be doing it. And I called the local newspaper and I sent it to them. And they gave me a weekly column every Friday. And the column is called Kindness is Contagious. Now, my husband, who is super supportive, no, he is, I'm kidding. He said, I give it 6 months. And I said, what? And he said, in 6 months, you're either going to be sick of talking about kindness or people are going to stop sending you in their stories of kindness. Because that was the whole deal. I wanted people to send me their stories of kindness, things they did and how it made them feel, or times in which kindness showed up at just the right moment. And so he said, yeah, that's never going to happen. You're never going to get people to do that. Well, you know, it's now 2019 and I still have that column going every week. So I love to be able to prove him wrong. It's super fun. And just to further prove him wrong, I put those columns into 2 books. First was called Kindness is Contagious. The second is called Kindness is Courageous, but they're both kindness stories that run in the newspapers in North Dakota and Minnesota. So here's the thing about writing a weekly newspaper. You have to write it. Guess how often you have to write it? Guess. You, how often do you have to write a weekly newspaper? Weekly, like every week. So when people didn't send in their stories, I had to find them. And initially, people didn't send in stories. They had no idea what I was doing. And so I had to find these stories of kindness in my own life. I had to become intentional and systematic about kindness. Within 1 year of being intentional and systematic about kindness, I had completely quit drinking. I had quit smoking. I had lost 30 pounds. I had re-fallen in love with my husband, who it turns out is a really great guy. I'd gone off my antidepressants. Life was different because I started to lead it with kindness. And circling back to my mom, you know, I would go to the grocery store and people would be like, oh, you're the kindness lady. I have a story for you. And I just kept thinking, fraud is in neon letters above my head, because my mom would still call me and I would still not have the time of day for her. I still couldn't speak to her without that toxin, that venom coming out. And, you know, so I have a faith. So in my faith, I said, okay, God, there's something you love about her. I want to love her. So show me what it is you love about her, because I want to see her the way you see her. And shortly thereafter, I got very curious about my mom in a way I had never gotten curious before. And I started to ask her questions like, why would you marry a prison inmate? And what happened that first day that he talked to you? And how did it go from that flirtation into actually leaving your family? And my mom was very honest, and she told me things from her past that were very painful, and that may have contributed to the way that she dealt with being a mom and a wife herself. My mom, by the way, lost everything. She lost her family. She lost connection with her kids for a very long time. She lost her home. When that man got out of prison, he had an affair with a 17-year-old girl, and he left my mom. She had to declare bankruptcy. She reached the depths. And then, when she was in her 50s, she went back and got her master's degree. On her 60th birthday, she ran her first full marathon. At age 69, she retired and moved to Vero Beach, Florida. She likes to do yoga on the beach. She teaches English as a second language. She's happy. She's at peace. And she allows me to share her story as part of my story because she wants everyone to know that redemption's possible. And that no matter where you are today, no matter what sort of inner meanie you feel is living inside of you, making choices for you, you have the ability to turn it around. You have the ability to choose the sort of life you want to live. So I love that she allows me to share that. And she has seen it in her life. I have seen it in my life. But I'm hoping that you'll be able to see it in your life. And so I'd like to play a little game where we can maybe do a little learning. Some of you will already know all of this information, and then you'll win, and then you will get a prize, which is one of my books. All right? But here's what I need you to do. Do you all have cell phones? Okay. I need you to get out your cell phone and go to kahoot.it. You don't have one? Andrea, can you grab my cell phone? You guys can play in pairs. If you win, I'll give you each a book, okay? So get out your cell phones. I'm going to turn this on so you can see what we're looking at here. 7 questions. They go by quickly. And you get points for how fast you answer. Number 1, it is important to verbally vent when you feel angry, frustrated, or disrespected. If that is true, do the triangle. If it is false, diamond. You might want to trust her. Okay, we gotta ask this question. Okay, so these people are working as a team. 3 of you are working as a team. Has anyone ever done a class project before in teams and was like, blah, right? Okay, what did you say what is your name? Mercedes. Ooh, you should trust her because her name is Mercedes. I like that. Right? Yes. Great. Okay, Mercedes, what did you think?
I need to vent.
You need to vent. Okay.
But they don't. Her answer instead of our own. You need to come join us.
Oh, okay. So Rita and Wendy, you thought you don't need to vent.
No.
Okay, and now this group, you all thought you do need to vent. Okay, so they're switching teams. Okay. I honestly have never had anyone switch teams in the middle of a game before. This is fantastic. Oh, sweet Mercedes and friends, I'm so sorry, but you are wrong. There's been great research that's been done at Ohio State University by a guy named Brad Bushman. And Brad Bushman and his team have been studying the anger pathways in the brain, and guess what they found out? It's like a super highway in there. The more attention you give those anger pathways, the more they light up in the future. So the way you react to something today teaches your brain how it should react to something tomorrow. If you walk in the house and there's shoes all over the floor and you immediately go rah, 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 to the entire household to get down here and pick that up, is it you? Okay. I wish I had a prize for all of you because seriously, the honesty in this room is so great. So, yeah, what you want to do when you see that hallway full of shoes is to take a moment and pause and choose how you want to respond instead of immediately reacting off the cuff. All right. Fur's winning, followed by Fred. Okay, let's find out, who is Fur? Are you willing to tell us? Oh, okay. So you're going to have to listen better because, yeah. If you want to keep up this winning streak, you got to stay with me, okay? Okay, who's Fred? Ah, right in the front row. That's right. He knows. All right, we're going to go with the next question. Are you ready? Mercedes, are you paying attention? Okay. Okay. When negative thoughts pop into your brain, you should listen because they might be right. Replace them with a different thought. Tell them to a friend or ponder what's causing that negative thought. Oh, did you get it? They got it. They got it. Okay. All right. If you take this piece of information home with you and you implement it in your life, you will change your world. I guarantee it. Because this is what changed my world. When negative thoughts pop into your brain, it's so easy to let them be there, let them live there. And you say, why is she wearing that skirt? Oh, I do not like that color on her. That is a terrible mother. Why would she leave her kids out like that? They come into your brain all the time. And you're either thinking something negatively about yourself or somebody else. But did you know you do not have the ability to think two thoughts at once? Imagine right now, if you would, that we are on a beach somewhere. Just close your eyes. Those of you who are working in teams, do not touch your partner. This is not part of that daydream we're having. You're on the beach. It's nice and warm. It's sunny. You can smell the copper tone. There's a gentle, soft breeze. And as you lay there and you're just feeling so grateful to be able to be in this place, think about the top 5 things you need at the grocery store. Open your eyes. The minute I said grocery store, you were off the beach, right? So that's the way that your brain works. When I first was trying to get a hold of what I was thinking, I had to start thinking about what I was thinking. And so you initially reject the thought, I do not want to think that judgmental thought about that person. I reject that thought. But that's not enough to move you away from it. You need to replace it with a thought. And so that thought is something, a predetermined thought. For me, I had a piece of paper in my pocket with 9 words on it. These were things that I tried to implement into my life. I wanted to build these characteristics. They were love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I'm a terrible memorizer. So I wrote them down on a piece of paper. I put them in my pocket. And I would say, I reject that thought when I would have a bad thought or a negative thought. And then I would say love, joy, peace. And I would forget. So I'd pull out my piece of paper, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and I would go through them. And once I memorized that, then I found another one to memorize. So you find a mantra, you find something that works for you and use it to retrain your brain not to sit in those areas of negativity. Okay, Fur, you are rocking it. You're back dialed in with me, aren't you? Okay. Next question. Creating stories about people in your mind can reduce your judgment of others, build compassion, fend off the temptation to be offended, or all of the above. Well done, everyone. Well, almost everyone. The 6 of you who got it wrong, just stick with me. Creating stories about people in your mind can reduce the judgment of others, build compassion, fend off the temptation to be offended. You know difficult people? Does anyone know any difficult people? Well, you don't need to be so loud about it, and you don't need to point people out. Not kind. Oh, she pointed to herself. Okay, then. difficult people used to really, really bother me. They are the people who drive 27 in the 60-mile-per-hour lane. It's like, ah. The two ways that I've found to deal with difficult people that have really helped are to create stories about them and to ask questions. When my mom was one of the difficult people in my life, what I tried to do was what? What did I do? I asked her questions. I said, Mom, why would you marry a prison inmate? Not from a place of judgment, but from a place of honest curiosity. So we ask questions. But that person who cut you off in traffic, maybe, and then dodged into the gas station, maybe we don't want to stop at the gas station and ask that person, hey, I noticed a few blocks back, you cut me off. There are times in our life in which we cannot ask those questions. And so that's where creating stories is really helpful. Maybe you think to yourself, that person, I bet you he just found out his wife is giving birth and, he had to cut me off because he has to get there. He's got someplace he really, really needs to be. You go, guy. Or, it can be anything. The woman who lets the door slam in your face at the store. Maybe she just found out her son made the basketball team, but now she's trying to figure out how to pay for the shoes she knows he's going to want. So creating stories doesn't mean we ever ask or figure out if there's any validity to those stories. We don't need to know if they're true. We just need to create them for ourselves because it helps build a bridge of compassion. Fred! Oh! He's like, did you see Fred's reaction? He goes, meh. I got this kindness thing down. I find it more difficult. There are no points for this question, just your honesty. Do you verbally bash others or verbally bash yourself more often? Those of you working in teams, I don't even know, just don't answer. All right. Well, the good news about whether you're part of the 13 or the 31, which is an interesting number flip there, is that the solution is the same. You have this sheet of paper, and if you don't, then pick one up on your way out. And it says, say no to the negative at the top of it. When you decide that you want to live with less of an inner meanie, I won't say no inner meanie because mine still pops out all the time. When you decide you want to get control of that inner meanie, these are 6 great steps to get you there. And here's the first one, is just to make a decision to stop saying negative words about yourself or about anyone else. You just decide that's not how you want to live anymore. The second is to get an accountability partner. Like you might want to say, hey, Mercedes, I know you're super gentle and soft and kind. And so would you mind letting me know if you hear me say something negative about someone else or about myself? She's laughing hysterically because she's like, what part of me being soft and gentle and kind did you get? Right? I'm just teasing you. So you get an accountability partner. You find someone you trust. The third is to wear a rubber band around your wrist and literally snap the rubber band. It's a physical reminder to your brain that this isn't what we're doing anymore. The fourth is to use a predetermined exit plan. Okay, if you always eat lunch in the same area and you always eat lunch with the same people and you always talk about the same sorts of things, what are people going to expect from you tomorrow? Same thing. Yeah. They're going to expect you to show up and sit down and talk about the same things you've always talked about. You being in here today, deciding, you know what, Nick's right. I don't want to talk like that anymore. I don't want to think that way anymore. They need a signal that you're changing, right? Because they don't know what's gone on in your head in the last 24 hours. So we have a predetermined exit plan. And so what that means is you say before you even go into that lunchroom, you know what, if the conversation turns there today, I'm going to turn it here. If someone starts saying something bad about that person, I'm going to say this. or I'm just not going to say anything at all. It doesn't mean that you're agreeing with them or disagreeing with them. We're not trying to start arguments. And if they say to you, what do you mean you like him? Like, what? You can say, well, I'm actually not making a judgment one way or the other. All I'm saying is that I'm trying to work on myself right now, and I just am trying to get myself to be more positive about life. And so I've just decided not to say anything bad about anyone anymore. Like, who can fault you for that, right? Have a predetermined exit plan. Memorize a mantra to replace those negative thoughts. We've talked about that, right? Whatever it is, put it in your pocket and pull it out. And then 6, we talked about that. Create stories and ask questions with the intent to build compassion. So, maybe you take this, you can cut it out, you can laminate it, you can put it in a little lanyard around your neck, and then you can look at it all the time until it becomes second nature to you, right? Okay. Fred has it. Well, there were no points for that, so I guess Fred would have it. Yeah. 5, how many feel-good chemicals are released into the body during kindness? 1, 3, 4, or 7? What is your name? Angie. What did you just say to your team?
Well, we wanted to change our answer because there were 4 up there.
There were 4 on the screen. Right. What did you answer? 7. Yeah. Because we get ahead of ourselves sometimes, but there are 4. Endorphins. They're your body's natural painkiller. They come into effect when you don't know if you should fight or flight. And a lot of times, if you're out of your comfort zone, your body doesn't know when you're doing an act of kindness. Is this a fight or a flight, or what are we doing here? Serotonin is your body's antidepressant. And serotonin, by the way, doesn't know the difference between reality and imaginary. So if you are retelling someone about an act of kindness that you saw or that you did, that serotonin will be re-released. Dopamine is the feeling of being rewarded. It's why we eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's after a really bad day. Dopamine. Oxytocin lowers your blood pressure, and it's also known as the cuddle hormone. So your body feels loved, and it's that, oh, life is good feeling. Ooh, the accountant, that's new. Who's the accountant in here? Ooh, way up high. Okay, round of applause for coming on the board there. Good job, accountant. All right, here we go. Which act of kindness releases the most chemicals into your body? Writing a check to the homeless shelter, cooking a meal for the homeless shelter, serving a meal at the homeless shelter, or they are all equal? Bummer. All right. Have you ever heard of a runner's high? Have you ever heard of a helper's high? A guy named Alan Lux came up with this in the 1990s, and it's brilliant because they hadn't really done any research on volunteerism or kindness up to that point. Well, he came up with this idea that people who are kind have this sort of euphoria. They have this sort of high that comes. And he wanted to know, why do some people get it and why do others not? And he found there were 3 things. Number 1, it had to be consistent. Number 2, it had to involve personal contact. And number 3, I forgot number 3. Oh, it had to include strangers. Don't you hate that when you're explaining something and you're like, now what was number 3 again? Yeah, it had to include strangers. So I am not saying do not write a check to the homeless shelter. I'm not saying, don't make a meal and drop it off. What I'm saying is that sometimes we need to sit down with somebody who's different than us and and talk with them and get to know someone who might come from a different walk of life or have a different viewpoint. And we have to extend kindness in a way that includes another person. And so that's where that helper's high comes from. And that's why you get more chemicals released into your body during that sort of time. The accountant wins again. All right. 7, who benefits the most from kindness? Final question, is it the giver, the receiver, the witness, or they all benefit equally? Some of you look stressed out over this question. It's okay. It is the final question, but I don't want anyone stressed about it. Not what you thought? So I'll tell you what, it does make sense that because I'm standing here talking about giving kindness, that it would be the giver of kindness that would, benefit the most. Kindness works as a trifecta. The randomactsofkindness.org society, randomactsofkindness.org is how you find them online, has done some great research about this. And they have found that kindness works as a trifecta. The giver, the receiver, and the witness all benefit from that release of chemicals. And so think about it at a grocery store. What happens at a grocery store if the person in front of you, let's say, doesn't have enough money? Let's say they're short $2. What happens? Somebody will give them money. Okay? So now the person who just gave them the money is feeling pretty good about that. Like, oh, I got to help. That was nice. The person who received the money says, oh, well, that was sure nice. I didn't have to run out to the car and get more or put something back. But who else noticed that? The cashier. Maybe the person who was bagging up the groceries, maybe the person in line behind. And their faith in humanity is rebuilt because they think, oh, I got to see that today. So kindness is a trifecta, the giver, the receiver, and the witness. And that's why it is so important to feed your brain with amazing things like daily blog posts from Nicole J. Phillips or kindness podcasts or books. Because if all you're doing is watching the news or watching The Simpsons or watching Family Guy or whatever it is you watch, you're not feeding yourself what your body needs to maintain those feel-good chemicals. And so that's why you want to fill your social media inboxes with, great Instagram posts or cute puppies or people helping people. That's why it's so important to not, just put garbage in your brain, but also to choose what you're putting in your brain. All right, let's see, who won? Anyone want to guess who won? Oh, why do they all sound so disappointed in that? I'm so sorry. Let's see. Oh, Fur? Who's Liz? Liz came out of nowhere to me. I haven't been. Oh, Liz, hi, you're up there. And the accountant, Fred, I'm so sorry. It's all right. It's all right. Okay, so hey, Andrea. Andrea's on my kindness team, and she's from Iowa. Isn't that fun? In my purse, in my camouflage bag, I have necklaces. Would you mind grabbing those? Because I want people to be able to choose. I think choices are fun in life. And I recently did a podcast with somebody who said, you can't tell someone to do kindness. It doesn't become contagious when I say to you, put an alert in your phone at 3 p.m. and go do something kind. It only takes hold when you get a choice. And so all I'm doing today is presenting another way to do it. And maybe you already have it. And maybe you think, well, I want it a little more. Or maybe you think, yeah, you know what? That inner meaning is pretty loud. So we're just presenting a choice. And then you get to do whatever you want. Okay, so let's start with you, Fur. You can have the prize behind door number 1. My back. Or you can have, would you just show it to her, Andrea? She's in the red sweatshirt. Can you raise your hand? Yeah. And it is a necklace, and it says on the necklace, be brave. And the reason why it says on the necklace, be brave, is because That's all I ask, that you think about stepping out of your comfort zone. And it does take some bravery to step out of your comfort zone sometimes and talk to people or to compliment them or just to notice them. Do you want the book? She wants the book. Okay. Next, we have 4 out of 7. The accountant. Would you like a necklace or would you like a book? What? Book. Okay. And then Liz, do you want a necklace or a book? Okay. Mercedes, that's for you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me pick on you. Okay. I want to refer back to this before we let you go. We talked about say no to the negative, but how about saying yes to kindness? If you want to add more kindness into your life today, because you think to yourself, people really aren't all that kind to me. I never really run across kindness. I have had people say that to me. She's giggling, but I've had people say that to me like, I don't know, I don't see a whole lot of kindness in the world. Then refer to point number 1, which is expect people to be kind. If you go to the post office and you know at the post office, the ladies there are always crabby to you, you're going to expect them to be crabby. So you're going to notice when they're crabby. If I sent you into a birthday party and I said, find all of the bad things about this party, write them down on a list and hand them to me when you get out, you would have a list of 10 things like the cake was stale, the decorations were gaudy, the music was too loud. But if I said to you, take this piece of paper in there and write down everything awesome about this birthday party, you would say, oh my gosh, they had the games were so fun and the kids were having a blast and they had the best turtle cheesecake. I don't know, whatever. So what you look for is what you'll see. Number 2, look for the silver lining in every situation. You deal with people here. How many of you deal with actual patients here? Yeah. And so you're dealing with patients. How many of you deal with people who have patients here? Like they're calling, they're either caregivers or they're calling on the phone or anything like that. Anyone deal with any phone people? Yeah. So you're dealing with people in a really traumatic time in their life. Whether it's a big trauma or a little trauma, they would not be here if they didn't desperately need you. But what they need from you sometimes is not to fix the situation, but to help them work through the situation and see the situation. So whether it's your silver lining or a silver lining you can give to somebody else, sometimes just saying, I know this is so hard, and boy, someday someone's going to need the wisdom you have because you've gone through this. Find the silver lining. 3, verbalize your gratitude. That means just telling people, I'm so thankful for you. Thank you for letting me be here today. Thank you for giggling with me. This has been fun. 4, smile, or if you don't like to smile, get Botox. 2004, in the United Kingdom, they did a study on Botox. And researchers found they would inject people in the forehead, and these people would come back and report these super elevated levels of happiness. And so they thought, oh my goodness, Botox is an antidepressant. Botox is not an antidepressant. It's an anti-frown machine. When you do this, oh my gosh, look at all of you furrowing your brow back at me. Because it's called negative mood feedback. When you come at someone with this sort of face, they're going to mimic you, whether they know it or not. And so when you come at someone with a pleasant expression on your face, because you've had Botox or because you've learned to smile, that's what you'll often get in response. Number 5 is to slow down. If you have to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. If you're hungry or hangry, have a Snickers bar. Do not write the email. Do not respond to the phone call while your basic needs are not being met. Slow down and take care of you so that you can respond kindly to others. And 6 is to offer a word of encouragement to one person each day. Lay your head on the pillow each night, being able to remember what you said or did that made a difference in someone else's life, because you will remind yourself not only that other people matter, but that you matter. We have just a few moments for questions. So if anyone has questions, I would love to take those. Otherwise, I'll share one more kindness story with you. What do you have for questions? Fred, do you have any questions for me? Accountant? Mercedes? No questions? Okay. You're gonna choose a winner? They're gonna choose a winner. Okay, while they're choosing the big winner, I'll tell you about a guy in Fargo who decided to make kindness intentional in his life. Oh, we have 3 books to give away. 3 winners. 3 more winners. Okay, but I'm going to hold this really tightly, and I'm not going to tell you who wins until after you listen to my story, because it is my final story, and it's a good one. The guy in Fargo was driving through a strip mall that had a coffee shop with a drive-through in the middle of it. So he's driving through the strip mall, comes this way, gets in front of the coffee area. A woman is coming from this way in her car, and they meet up right where you're to enter the drive-through of the coffee shop. And so the man says to me, "We made eye contact." But it wasn't like, "We made eye contact." It was like, "We made eye contact." And he said, there was just something about her face that said, "Don't you dare get in line in front of me." And he said, just as I was sitting there and seeing her face, and he said she floored it. She just and went right into the coffee drive-thru. Now, the funny thing about the whole thing was he wasn't even going to get coffee. He was just driving through the strip mall. But he had a choice in that moment. And so he stopped his car and he went in and he said to the barista, "I want to pay for whatever that woman in the drive-thru is ordering right now." And I said to him, like, my inner meanie would be like, oh no, you didn't. And I said, "Well, how did you get past that?" And he said, "Well, I knew I had a choice." He said, "I could have gone to work and told everybody about this woman who cut me off in traffic and about this dirty look she gave me, and then they would share their stories of terrible people, and then we would all be talking about how bad the world is. Or I could spend $5 in 5 minutes, and I could walk around the rest of the day thinking about how clever I am." Choose kindness. Okay. Oh, you can. Thank you. I much prefer that you stand up when you do that. I don't know. It's got a bigger impact. I'm kidding. Okay. Are you ready for a winner? Okay. Okay, you win. Okay, I think they all start 5, 3, 0, 1. So who's winning so far? Woo! 4, 3, 9. Oh, we got one up there. Okay. I don't have the books, so you have the books. Okay. Okay, next. 53014. 18. Oh, yay! 53014. I get a kick out of that every time. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm here entertaining myself, clearly. 38. Must be present to win. Must be present to win.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's me.
For a second, I thought you were sitting next to Fur, and I was going to tell you. I told you guys up there to dial in. You got it. Good. Next to each other. Oh, weird. Okay. All right. Weird. Thank you all so much for having me here today. Thank you for what you do for all of the people here in this medical center. Oh, she stood and clapped. Thank you. It doesn't count if you ask for it.